has replicated Bash and has gone the other way around the stage.
Hello. Welcome to today's match. Really big match. It's the winners' final of the Buffalo Cup, and we are watching Beasty Boys Bros versus Beasty Boys Agane in what is sure to be a tongue-twisting final match. Casting with me today is Lord of Terrence. What do you think about this match?
I think this is a very interesting match because we haven't really seen them play against each other in a while. I mean, back in Medal State, I think it was a forfeit. So we haven't really got a chance to see this. And I think kind of with how these teams are progressing, it could go either way. And, you know, Beasty Boys Bros missing a key element to their roster, which we've been seeing from them over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to rosters in a moment, but a notable absentee today is Mito. A kind of key part of this this Beasty Boys Bros team. You know, we've seen him on the Torbjorn, we've seen him on Roadhog as well. Since we've seen less of Severin this year, and we've seen his hero picks: the Torb, the Junk, the Farah, the Roadhog, the Zaya. In some instances, they've really had very positive impact. And he's definitely a key piece that Beasty Boys Bros are going to have to look at, kind of working around. We have Squishy taking his place in the DPS line today, which, obviously Squishy, phenomenal DPS in his own right back in the old unidentified early 80k days. But what are we expecting from the rest of this roster?
I mean, I think you look at this roster, the tanks of Riposte and Visions. You'd say you're stalwarts of the Overwatch scene. I mean, I think back to when I first joined, and both these players were there, and on already the top teams of the time. Riposte and 2CP and Visions was on Boostios back then eventually onto GG and winning alongside you. Obviously back on support at that point, but he's still got that kind of experience from back then. And then you look at that DPS lineup of Lavius and Squishy, and I don't know about you, but I'm terrified of that.
Too many bad memories of those players, right?
Like I just think back to that final in 2019. Lavius and Squishy, both in DPS at the time, different teams, but both kind of putting out carry performances in that final. Now here on the same team, I don't want to be going against. I'm glad we didn't when we went up against them. And then you look at their support lineup of Hamza and Wallace, and maybe Hamza not necessarily regarded as the strongest flex support in the country. We haven't really seen much of him, but he's definitely a strong enough player to be on this Beasty Boys Bros roster. And then alongside Wallace, who, as you saw in the intro, he can get those big boops and win team fights off just a single right click.
I mean, yeah, it's an extremely decorated team, I suppose you'd say. You got multiple league winners in this team. You have a lot of experience in this Overwatch team. If we take a look at Beasty Boys again, though, you're seeing, if you're considering Beasty Boys Bros to be, kind of a representation of the old guard of South African Overwatch, Beasty Boys again has a lot of, more up and coming players that have only really risen to prominence over the last year or so. We talk about Stalker coming through the lines of Vanguard and then 2CP, and then here he is now leading. This is effectively first and second in the country right now, given the results of this tournament so far, and like an absolute mainstay in this role. Known extremely for his Winston play. We talk about other kind of like rising stars within the community: Kiri, Smiley, Trizzle, players that maybe were around before that, especially in the kind of Kiri and Trizzle situation where they were playing for the old Team Gaming and old Odyssey rosters back in 2019, but really only like making their marks last year. And so you've got very kind of prominent players coming through, and you've got players that have a lot going for them as well. Both Smiley and Stalker having made their way into EU teams and performing exceptionally well there. Tempered by cool heads like Newt, who coming in here like really constructing a team that very well balanced. It's a very well balanced team across the roster.
And I think a big note to make is Kiri versus Lavius on Hitscan. I mean, I can remember back to 2019 when we were just kind of having fun memeing around that they're the Widow 1v1. And you think back then, Lavius, King of Widow, actually struggled against Kiri. So that's kind of a big matchup that you look out for. Can Kiri take on that dominance over Lavius, or will he just struggle in that matchup?
I think that's going to be an interesting matchup to look at today. And these teams, you look at them, they have very differing styles as well. Where you look at Beastie Boys Bros, you're maybe looking at a team that's a little more entrenched in spam and kind of anti-dive archetypes. We've seen a lot of Torb from them. We've seen a lot of McCree and Reaper from them over their time as a team. We've seen a lot of Bunker from them as well, a lot of Orisa Diva, Orisa Sigma, and obviously Orisa Hog. Whereas from the side of Beastie Boys, again, you're maybe looking at that roster and thinking, yeah, they're a dive. They're a dive team. Trizzle's Trace, Stalker's Monkey, Amali's Diva, Kiri on the Soldier or the Widow. You're looking at that. It's like, that's a dive team right there. That's, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see that clash of styles here. But it's also going to be interesting to see if they maybe subvert that a little bit. If they're able to take each other by surprise, pull out something that the other's not expecting, and maybe take the advantage there.
Yeah, and I think that the big thing we kind of talk about is, these teams don't necessarily practice as much as what you would normally expect from most teams. It's always been a whole thing of Beastie Boys are about having fun together, not necessarily for practice, but come to these tournaments, perform well, and that's exactly what they do. And with Beastie Boys again, especially having played a lot longer together now, they've started to build that synergy, maybe starting to rival that synergy that Beastie Boys Bros have. And especially, we talk about Mito, and not only is he such a big member in the team, being a carry a lot of the time, but because he's been on the team for so long versus someone like Lavius, he hasn't had as much time to necessarily gel. And same with Squishy, who's more been on that flex support role.
I mean, that's actually an interesting point to bring up there, is that, for the memories of Squishy as a devastating DPS, he has been a flex support since his time on ATK. He has been playing in that flex support role, and he played, largely for Beastie Boys has played flex support as well. So whether he's able to adjust that, whether he's able to keep up those levels that we do know him for, that obviously he's so well known in the community for being able to just execute at such a high level, will be very kind of crucial in terms of seeing, whether they're able to kind of maintain a push in this game, maintain their, realistically maintain their top spots. As Beastie Boys Bros, you're really expecting, has been the top team for most of this year.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to last year, and they were the only ones really rivaling ATK a lot of the time. They were actually pushing them to the limit, and even when we saw them come up against Ramberg Fire Department, which at the time was the strongest team, that they took them to 7 maps. Yeah. And it was a really close 7th map as well. So this is the team that you're expecting. If you want to be the best team in the country, this is who you need to beat. And it's only the winners final, so it doesn't end here. For Beastie Boys again, if they do happen to fall short, and maybe they can take some positive going on to if they make the final. But obviously having to come up against Enigma in the losers final isn't really something to scoff at either.
Yeah, it is worth noting both of these teams have come up against Enigma in this tournament so far. Beastie Boys again playing against Enigma in the group stage and winning, I believe, 3-1. And Beastie Boys Bros coming up in the first winners bracket round and winning 3-2. So, it's by no means a signed and sealed losers bracket final for whoever loses this match, but it's definitely, you're looking at these teams and you're saying, you're kind of expecting whoever wins this to win the tournament. That's what you're looking at from the perspective of a neutral watcher here. Is that this is what's happened in this game so far, or in this tournament so far, and historically, you're thinking Beastie Boys probably Beastie Boys Bros probably the favorite to take the tournament as a whole. So whether they're able to do so, it's going to be, this is the real challenge to their dynasty. It's, do they go down as, the last winners of the Overwatch 1 era in South African Overwatch, or, is it going to be usurped at the last second?
And I think that is also a really good point. There's a lot of weight on all the teams in this tournament. This is the final tournament of Overwatch 1. I mean, we're expecting next year Overwatch 2 coming in, and I don't know how many players are going to stay around, or how many are going to look to take a break going into Overwatch 2 and then come back. So for them, this could be it. They at least have the losers brackets final if they lose this. So there's still that one extra game, but you want to have that advantage going into the final week, because you also can then say you can watch that losers bracket final and have that bit more of a preparation time, and maybe there's something that they pull out in those games because they have to, as you mentioned, like Enigma, not really a team that's just going to be a pushover, so you do need to bring out your best.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, again, it's also just a big mental advantage. Whether one of these teams or whether it ends up being Enigma and one of these teams in the finals, it's a big mental advantage to have won earlier in the tournament. It's a big mental advantage to come in having been able to rest for a week, having been able to watch what the enemy teams are doing for a week. Which realistically, one game happening next week, it'll be a costed game should, Scars be stuck in producer jail and we have sufficient numbers of casters for it. And we don't have load shedding.
Yeah, that too. We have to include that part.
Interesting proviso. This just in, Scars is actually speaking to us now. You can't hear him, thankfully. He is speaking to us. We're just currently waiting for the teams to make their way into the lobby. We had an entire Beastie Boys again. They are slowly dwindling. And BBB still a little bit slower on the draw. Let's hope for their sake that's not a reflection on how the match is gonna go.
Yeah, but I think that this is kind of standard South African Overwatch. There's always delays in some way, whether it be people losing power, losing internet, or just needing to do something because there's like a knock at your door, and anything is possible. Expecting that delivery that was meant to come 4 hours earlier, but then didn't arrive until now.
Don't forget the notorious microwave cutting off internet signals. We've had a few of those in the community in our time.
not something you ever expect to hear, but here we are.
But here we are, yeah. Yeah, so at this stage, again, we're just waiting on these two teams to kind of, make their way into the lobby. For the record, I suppose, would be the way to phrase it. The match between the Odyssey and Enigma did happen last night. Obviously, Enigma going through, hence why we're talking about them tonight. That it was a 3-0 in favor of Enigma. This is the top 3 of the Buffalo Cup at this stage. It's Beastie Boys Bros, Beastie Boys Agane, and Enigma. So this is the business stage of the competition. This is where you're really, really wanting the best Overwatch to come out from. And I mean, obviously, you want your players to be in the lobby to start that.
Yeah. I know this isn't Overwatch 2 yet, but maybe at least we can get 5 in, so we do the 5v5. Maybe get a little bit of practice in.
It is an interesting kind of consideration, though, is that even should all these players stay for Overwatch 2, right? Is that it's a different game, it's a different format, and even if all these players stay, realistically, one of them's losing their spot. One of those poor tank players.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe those DPS players go over to tank, but I don't see a reason why. That just seems like pain, especially when Sombra exists as a hero in Overwatch 2.
That big mega buff for Sombra coming through looks a little bit scary if you're playing here on the high end of the HP spectrum, especially since there's only one of you anymore.
You want to roll around this wrecking ball? I mean, you can roll around. I don't know how long it will last because you take more damage. But...
at this stage, we're just waiting for Wallace. Anyone who's played with Wallace before will be well accustomed to this feeling. But we're just looking. Everyone else in the lobby at this stage ready to go. We're assuming that the BBB players maybe were warming up. Maybe they were just keeping warm in the interim. So talk us through the map set, Taryn. What are we kind of looking for today?
I think you look at, especially in Blizzard World and Havana, there's kind of a lot of spam archetypes that we mentioned that Beastie Boys Bro is probably looking towards, and it's not impossible to run dive, which you are expecting from your Beastie Boys again, especially on Blizzard World. I think that's a map where you've always looked at it as kind of the neutral map, I'd like to say, between dive and like more bunker style. A map that I can remember for the Genji Sombra dive, where it's very strong at breaking open its first point, especially. But then Havana, I think whenever you think back to Havana, maybe with the exception of Junkertown, has always been that your spam map, double sniper a lot of the time. Yes, you've sometimes seen the kind of raw archetypes, but a lot of that's more down towards we want to spawn camp on the fence and we want to draw this out as long as possible. Even if we end up losing majority of our fights, because we're taking 2 to 3 fights per point, your time back isn't going to be very long. And especially when you think about Havana Point 3, notorious for being near impossible to complete if you don't get that snowball going. And if you have a minute to 2 minutes, then you don't really have the opportunity to build up towards potential 6 ultimate. So that I think is going to be a key map, where we see maybe a bit more favoring Beastie Boys Bros. I think compared to all the other maps, then in terms of Volskaya, will probably be the most favored for Beastie Boys again. That kind of map that is notorious for dive. You think back, Sombra being so potent on the map, you pre her buffs, when you still had the limited invers and limited Translocate at the time. So I think as the series goes on, it's going to shift in terms of the playstyles that we see for both teams.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that we're looking at, we obviously know Nepal first. Nepal's obviously a very diverse map. You can play a variety of different things in a variety of different ways. You're looking at Blizzard World and Havana, and you are looking at maps that are traditionally spammy, and especially because you're not really considering these teams to be extremely kind of brawl-intensive teams. We have seen the side of DBA come out with a brawl previously in this tournament, but we're maybe not expecting them to be brawl-intensive, So we probably don't see that type of super-structured spawn camp brawl strats from either side in this situation. So realistically, we're looking at a spammy map there, very, very spammy map, and that's I think where you're going to be looking at Kiri, Lavius, Trizzle, and Squishy to really kind of make their impact felt. Maybe a couple of cheeky Zen picks, but I think those are the players you're really looking at here.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember back to what wasn't too long ago. LA Gladiators against Chengdu Hunters during Countdown Cup, Birdring on Havana, just nasty. You think that kill on Voltal is a Volking Mercy in your face. You panic, and then he just hits probably one of the dirtiest flicks you've ever seen. So that's something we could definitely see from these DPS players. Yes, they're not the level of Birdring, but a lot of these players have hit a high level. I think Trizzle probably out of everyone has, in terms of comp at least, has hit the lowest, but even then it's not that low.
No, it's definitely among the top 2, top 3% in South Africa, surely, in that DPS role. And but it's again like are Lavius and Squishy that top 1% that we expect or that we know them for? Like, do they perform at that level? Because Trizzle, no slouch, no slouch in terms of his reflexes, his aim, his ability to kind of pressure out the team. So, it's by no means a kind of marker on his skill in the game.
Not at all. And there's also, like as you mentioned, the cheeky Zen picks and the flex supports. That battle kind of between Hamzo and Newt. And I think it's kind of an interesting one because Hamzo is a former DPS player, so you're probably expecting him to be a bit more of the aggressive style, especially on Zen, whereas Newt, he's probably a bit more reserved. He's been on that off-tank role, more of a defensive style, so maybe that's something we could see. And also, there's Wallace in the mix. You never know where you're going to find Wallace at any time, basically. Could be right, could be left, but you're probably expecting him in your backline.
Yeah, I mean, here we are. We're now entering our first map. Wallace actually in the lobby now. As well as everyone else who dipped for warm-up purposes. We're coming onto Nepal Village, and the team's coming out on their kind of expected styles here. We're seeing the kind of monkey ball style coming out from BBB really early here. Riposte obviously extremely well known for his kind of high intensity Winston play, and Vision's traditionally a little bit stronger on that Wrecking Ball pick. Whereas from the side of BBA, we're looking at kind of pseudo rush, a kind of classic summer main melee Echo rush with the Tracer instead of the Reaper in that type of situation. So a little bit more of an aggressive comp coming out of BBA. So we'll see what kind of pans out here.
Yeah, you're going to see the engagement's already started, and Kiri going down to Squishy. Squishy on that fire pick could be very scary, and getting 2 already, and this fight's more or less done, but his kills traded back and forth. Is still in favor of Beastie Boys Bros, but without Winston getting pressure, that might be a bit difficult. Amalia's already low, Newt low as well. They do get on top of point, but DMAC, Stalker getting really, really low. This looks like a fight that's going to be in the favor of Beastie Boys Bros.
Yeah, good effort from BBA to try and force the point and get the early flip, but unfortunately not quite panning out. They are still trying to stall this out, but it really looks like a fight that's going in the side of BBB here. Squishy just raining down fire from above. We talk about is there rust there, and you know what, didn't look like it. Down goes Kiri first thing in the fight, and now wholesale changes coming out from the side of BBA. Kiri onto that soldier pick, and Newton onto that Newton onto the Ana, and Smiley onto the Mercy here. So a more traditional dive, of course with the Wrecking Ball instead of the Winston in this situation, but something that potentially can allow them to kind of space out the fight a little bit more. And immediately Riposte getting punished for a little bit of an overextension there.
And that's the opening that Beastie Boys are getting here. You can see that they're getting onto point now, and without that Winston, it's going to be very difficult for him to force control. Kiri going down means that Squishy does get a bit more open space, and with Lavius and pressure, can't really get that res of mines coming on point. Might make it very difficult to enter the point, but they do get the cap. They are slowly but surely losing the fight, so even though they get the cap, it's short.
Yeah, it's a good entry to the fight to just get the punish on the engage from Riposte there, but they're not able to maintain. Lots of backline pressure coming in from Lavius here, making it really difficult for Kiri to be able to do his job and pressure out Squishy. We talk about Squishy's value in this fight, and Lavius doing just as much on the backline there. Early pick onto Wallace there might give BBA the opportunity they need to get onto points.
Yeah, now with Squishy without that Mercy, he's going to have to play super defensive, and you can see he's already going back for the Mercy. It opens up the point for Stalker. Riposte does drop down to contest. With the Nano, he will be able to survive longer, but Vision's going down is a bit dangerous now. There's not really much help, but he does get Newt. Hamza going down as well. Kills are once again trading back and forth. Squishy is back in the fray. With that barrage, he could put an end to BC Boys again. And there's the Newton to Chisel, but it's very, very short-lived. And 2 from Squishy, yes, it's traded out, but by this point, you're starting to look at BC Boys Bros looking to take control of point, and with the points still ticking up, this is slightly in their favor. Wallace does go down once again, and now Lavius, it actually is looking in the favor of BC Boys again, and with their heroes going down a bit later in the fight, they might be able to get back soon enough, and it's just Kiri that's dropped on recent memory, and Riposte, low HP, not going to be alive long, and that should be the flip coming in for BC Boys again.
Although it ends up being a fight win for BBA, it is excellent fight pacing from the side of Beastie Boys Bros. They Squishy pulling back there, just getting his Mercy back and coming into the fights with a little bit more aggression than he would have been able to sustain without her. And they extend that to 97. They pull out Minefield, they pull out the Pulse Bomb. Good ults online for the side of BBA, but still really, really well played to bait out what they did.
And yeah, none of us are coming out ready, getting the pick onto Hamza. There is the Mercy in play, but she does go down, and the only kill that's traded out is a Malian, not necessarily the worst one. With that Mercy and the Moira going down, you're not really looking at any kind of sustain left on the point. Vision's dead, and that's going to be a wrap for this fight for Beastie Boys again.
Yeah, just Lavius kind of getting out of this fight at this stage. Whether they get the pick or not might be a nice little stagger for them, but very, very expensive fight from the side of BBA. They used everything they had left on the board there to kind of open that up. And although nothing on board yet for BBB, you're maybe looking at the Barrage and the Valkyrie in this fight and thinking, these could be ultimates that potentially open up and kind of shape this fight for us.
I mean, you can say just the Pharaoh in general, neutral. Jump from across is a bit wayward, but the engagement onto the backline is a bit discontinued. There is no Wizard, but Smiley going down. Mercy's are traded out. Now the Pharaoh down as well. Still a good start to this fight for BBA, but it's just chaos, pandemonium all around. Newt not managing to dodge that Pulse Bomb does end up going down, and potentially looking for a flip now on the side of Beastie Boys Bros. They do have that Winston, they do have the Wrecking Ball on point, a bit more of stability. Yes, there's a Wrecking Ball from Stalker, but the Mines may be able to delay it long enough, but I don't know how long he can stall this by himself. Rez does come out to actually Rez cancel, but Squishy going into the Mines while trying to cancel that Rez. Hamzo taking a lot of damage, Lavius down, and the Mines just cleaning up for I don't even know how.
Honestly, just an excellent minefield there from Stalker to just make sure that they kept control of that point. It looked like an extremely dicey fight for them coming into that later stage of that point, but they were able to just kind of stabilize it, kind of trade back and forth. Their willingness to abandon their backline and push on to BBB has served them really well in this round. I'm not sure their backline would be entirely fond of it, but you know what? If it works, it works.
And it's kind of like from both teams here, we're starting to see like both teams not really caring too much about their backlines. You're often seeing them going down in the fights, but they still manage to end up winning it. I mean, you think backline, yes, obviously Wallace sticking with Squishy a bit more, but you know, he's often one of the first targets going down.
Yeah, so we're coming out into this map, and we're seeing very much the same coming out from BBA. They're happy with this Ball Diva strategy, and the Soldier Tracer, you know, puts them on their Kiri extremely comfortable on the Soldier, Trizzled in the Tracer as well, and kind of how they leverage that, how they are able to put pressure in, will really determine how they're able to hold off against, you know, the kind of slower burn comp coming out from the side of BBB.
Yeah, and you know, Vision's going down earlier. It's a low that they engage now. You know that the Winston help. Fire going down and the Mercy, you know, Kiri really popping off in this fight. That's 3 picks to open it up, and you know, there's just no pressure on him at this stage. He's kind of just sitting there free farming, and especially considering you've got that Lucio Mercy, you know, for Riposte especially, he can't really do too much to put pressure on. So, you know, Vision's going down early means there's absolutely no pressure on Kiri, and there was that momentary switch to the hog.
I was sweating.
It might have been a bit better because, you know, he can at least have a bit more self-sustain than the Winston, but you know, Squishy onto this Genji without the kind of nano boost is going to be a bit tough, but you know, coming to this fight, Lavius already low. They do get an onto point, but your Stalker rolling around in the backline, looking for a bit of disruption, but Smiley going down is a good start that they're looking for. Newt as well, backline down. This is the opening that you're looking out for if you Beastie Boys pros. Kiri as well, they're not really getting that space that he necessarily needs in this fight. It's just going to be left for Store at this stage. The Stalker going down, the Marley out of mech, and Smiley does end up switching over to the Brig, but point is flipped.
Yeah, and that's actually a really, really interesting flip from the side of BBB. Switching off the Pharah onto the Genji instead, choosing to play a little bit harder engaged. They're playing, you know, let's send this backline, let's get onto the Soldier, let's get onto this Ana, let's make their lives extremely difficult. And again, we're just seeing immediately, just off the beginning, the Genji getting a lot of value, but that pulse bomb coming up big.
Yeah, and that's going to be, you know, the big comeback in this fight. You lose your Ana first, but now the double pulse bomb means, you know, no Blade, no Volk, so Kiri getting that pick into Visions opens up the fight. He's looking potentially for a Visor here on this high ground. Bomb does come out from Mavali in combination with the Volk, sorry, from Hamza, and Riposte going down means that this should be the opening that they really need. Visor to clean it up, and that should be the flip coming out for Beastie Boys again.
I think if you're Beastie Boys again, you're thinking this a little bit heavier than you want it to be, you having to use this Visor to effectively zero value, and not even flipping the point off that to start. So you're maybe thinking this is a little bit heavier than it wants to be, and it's still not a fight that's really going in your favor right now.
No, like, the mines have to come out from stalking. You saw those mines from Vision getting low, like quite a lot of value, stalling on time, but you're forcing a lot of ult. Now the beat coming out from Wallace hits maybe 2, you know, himself and the Tracer. It doesn't really, you know, pay dividends to the rest of his team, but this fight is just stalling longer and longer, and you know, for Beastie Boys bros, you're happy with this, but the flip does eventually come in favor of Beastie Boys again, and you probably start to see a disengage come out from Beastie Boys bros. But I say that, and they're still fighting. We're still seeing the ults and kills going back and forth, but Squishy cleaning up with this Blade, you know, known for this Genji, getting those 2 picks, so this should be another quick flip going in the favor of Beastie Boys bros. But as I say that, he goes down as well, and there's not many players left on point. It's just Stalk on the sides for Beastie Boys again, but you know, he's a wrecking ball. With a few players, he should be able to stall this maybe long enough to get, you know, his own players back in the field. We see Newton coming back on. Trizzle does go down. Newton is low, kind of under pressure. Smiley probably back soon. Stalker stalling this point out for long enough that, you know, even though these ults kind of go in their favor, but the flip does go inside of Beastie Boys bros. Pulse bomb, and now Squishy coming back, getting 2 kills. Bomb comes off of Molly. I don't think this gets anyone. He goes down before he can even get the remake. Stalker once again left to stall, but he goes down to the mines, and with 87% on the clock, it's going to be stall time for Beastie Boys again.
Extremely, extremely good stall from BBB there, and just knowing what their limits are, knowing how they can push back into this fight. You know, just destroying my poor play-by-play caster's voice here, but you know, opening up this or putting themselves in a position to really hold the fight really superbly.
I mean, you saw this fight. Trizzle does get the pick on top, so Kiri goes down. So even trade, Smiley does go down as well. So now slightly in favor of BBB, and with them in control of point, you're always looking for those better trades. But there is a low HP bars on the side of Beasty Boys Bros. Can BBA get those picks? Squishy does go down, but he is traded for Newton. This is still, now even trades, but points slowly but surely flipping in favor. Wallace with that beat could come in clutch. He does hit it, gets it onto Visions, giving him a bit more time as a stolen point. And Hamza coming back with this Volk may make it very difficult for BBA to clean up, especially without their trades, with that pulse bomb. And, the pulse bomb sticks from Lavius, getting Kiri, that's a low of your sustained damage. Mines on the point means that Stalker gonna have a tough time to stall, and point does go in favor of Beasty Boys Bros.
Lavius doing an extreme amount of work in these kind of extended, very messy fights. Just keep harassing that backline. I think that's really the big difference we're seeing in this round specifically. Obviously BBB not really playing a vulnerable backline at all with the Mercy Lucio, debatably not even playing a backline. But from the side of BBB with that kind of hard engage and ability to just kind of negate any kind of pressure coming into their backline. Lavius being able to pressure out Newt, especially on the Ana and that, forcing the Moira, and then still pressuring out the Moira. Excellent in that round to kind of open up those kind of positions. Coming out into this map, we're seeing a little bit of a flip from the side of BBA. They're now switching onto their own Mercy Lucio, switching onto their own Para, and Lavius on the Soldier. So a complete switch of styles here for the two sides.
And you're going to look to see Trizzle looking for that engage, a big engage, but Newton going down very early means that this is going to be a tough fight. And without Trizzle really getting those picks, yes, he's getting the damage in, but nothing's really going down. He's now forced out. You got to remember that it's just the Mercy healing. Rapace does die, and now Hamza. So there's the picks that you're eventually looking for. And Smiley does go down, meaning that Lavius will have a bit more chance. And it's even Wallace, not Lavius, taking him down. So pressure to Lavius should guarantee the point kind of flipping in favor of Beasty Boys first. But as I say, that Stalker getting grouped off, that's a low of the engagement. Yes, there's the ball going down from Beasty Boys again, but this is the double main tank setup, so there is a bit more of a stability with that Winston pick. Yes, there's not much skill, but you at least have a bit more engagement. With Beasty Boys Bros taking control of point, BBA have to back.
Really, if you're looking at BBB, you're looking at Lavius as very much a key part of the comp they're playing here. You're looking at the Soldier 76 and thinking, if this stays alive, Trizzle doesn't get the value he needs to get. And they put so much pressure on him and weren't able to pick him off. And Trizzle actually switching off here. He's now on the Torbjorn instead of the Pharah now, and that could be a kind of key element into how this round progresses.
Yeah, and we can see Lavius under so much pressure, but still surviving through the healing, through his own heal station.
Ooh, big bomb.
Big bomb from Amali, and Genji and Ana going down as well as the Lucio. It's bound to be stalled, but as I say that Newt going down, it's never a clean 6 fight. And Lavius with the visor looking to try and flip this, but with that res, Rapace going down, this visor is getting absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think maybe a few seconds earlier, maybe it gets the value he's looking for. But again, you're seeing him just kind of hold that same position. Only once the fight is completely deconstructed does he actually get picked off there. Now switching on to the McCree, so potentially for a bit of an extra stun and maybe a more high impact kind of burst ult. You're maybe looking at him switching style that way, but he's really, despite taking pressure, not succumbing to it, and that's very, very good. It's a very promising sign for the side of BBB.
Yeah, Primal comes out from Rapace. He was getting low, so needed to pop that ultimate. We do see the number coming online very soon. Beat from Wallace sustained with Trizzle going down. They do have a big advantage going into this fight. HP plus extra body on point, but this is a comp that's going to be very good at stalling from BBA. But as I say that, they just give up point for free, where it felt like it. Now the trades are going back and forth, but even though BBA giving up point, maybe it's kind of a fast. They wanted that better positioning, but Kiri going off the map, Wallace going down. This should be the flip for BBA. It's just squishy, and he goes down very quickly. So flip coming shortly, you'd expect. Pass now dead, and there still is that Nano Blade. But there is the beat, as well as the Molten Core. I almost forgot the name of that ultimate for a second.
Yeah. Obviously a more affectionate name in the community that's not appropriate for cast. But coming through into this next fight, you have to say, it's good on BBB that they're getting a little bits of progress here and there. And it's maybe a little bit of a mistake that you're looking at, if you're BBA, that you need to be kind of remedying. You can't afford to be giving up too much just free progress for nothing. A bit of a like slow engagement, but Lavius getting 2 picks early on, taking.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's kind of like that first fight we've seen that's gone in one team's favor. Then Lavius all of a sudden decides it's my time to kill 2, but the fight's still in favor of BBA, and with point slowly taking up. Squishy going down. This Nano Blade is still yet to come out. Mine's on point, but Visions is off the map. And, there's not a lot of staying power left in the team, and you're looking to store out for that Nano Blade, but can they do that in time? There's not a lot of bodies left on point. There's no ball. There's no. Winston is getting low. Chisel does go down there. Nano Blade. No, not even Nano Blade. It's Nano Winston. You waited all this time. Don't even get the chance to use the ultimate. Mines once again picking of Lavius as well as Stalker again. They pick onto Hamto, and Squishy way on that blade. Already low HP goes down, and this is clearly in the favor of Beasty Boys again. Looking to take this first map, and with this Valkyrie, it's going to be almost impossible to really get rid of them on this point. Your bomb as well means that touching this point is a death trap, and Beasty Boys again take our first map.
Excellent fight management from the side of BBA there, and maybe a little bit of rushing of the engagement from Beastie Boys Bros. I speak about how maybe BBA needed to manage their points a little bit better. BBB come out and like hold my beer, and just immediately they come in. Lavius at least getting 2 with his kind of early engagement, but Squishy not able to really have that same impact. Actually, them not being able to get their Nanoblade participation because of that. They're not able to get their Nanoblade into the fight. They're not able to get that extremely high impact ult that you're looking at realistically being the core reason you play Genji.
Yeah.
Blade really being the kind of key reason that Genji is valuable as opposed to literally any other flanker. And they're not able to get it off. And BBA just able to maintain that fight, stabilize on point. The Torbjorn doing a lot of work in kind of stabilizing and making sure they can anchor solidly on point. And BBB just never able to take it back. It's interesting things for the series ahead.
I think one person you've got to give a lot of credit to for that map for Beastie Boys again is Stalker. You look at yes, there was a time they did give up point 3, where it did feel like, but a lot of the time in these kind of clutch situations where Stalker was the only one alive, he was either stalling point or he was getting those kills. So you've got to kind of look to do we need to punish him on the side of Beastie Boys Bros, and that potentially looking at swapping off the Genji, because Genji not really a hero notorious for taking down a wrecking ball, so maybe you're looking at something like that Kree, like that Soldier, or even just the Torbjorn, which we saw Chisel bring to great effect and put a lot of pressure on the tanks on the side of Beastie Boys Bros.
And I think maybe if you're looking at a team that's not playing as hard engage, maybe Squishy considers that Pharah again. That Pharah, obviously being a hero, he's extremely comfortable and extremely proficient at. Would have done wonders against that Torb, and especially with a little bit less pressure on the kind of backline, he maybe has that time to really look for that damage output, look for that poke that he really didn't have on Nepal Village in particular.
You also, another thing we look at, and maybe just maybe we need to see like a style swap coming out of the tanks of Beastie Boys Bros. This Winston ball doesn't really seem to be being too effective so far. You talk about being this hard engage, but every time they engage, one of them dies, whether it's the Winston or the Wrecking Ball. And at that point, maybe you start to maybe we just need to play like a more defensive style. Then you put Visions onto that D.Va. Yes, you're not really looking to punish, but if you are going to put Squishy onto something that's a bit more defensive on the Fire or Torbjorn, that D.Va can help out so much more. Help that backline a little bit, survive that little bit longer, because it really seems like Beastie Boys again are putting a ton of pressure on the backline once that front line goes down.
Yeah. Into Blizzard World now, what are we expecting to see from these two teams?
I have to say, stylistically, you've got to maybe that Orisa D.Va, but a lot more of a defensive, help that for the Beastie Boys Bros. Put a lot of pressure on Stalker, who's just kind of feels like he's going for free a lot of the time. He's not really punishing. Yes, you've got to say you can't really punish a Wrecking Ball with the comp that Beastie Boys again are playing. Beastie Boys Bros are playing, but maybe that's a comp that they need to look at playing. That's something that does punish him while not really giving the rest of the team that room to maneuver. But as we see already on the side of Beastie Boys Bros, something different. I don't think any of us would have expected the potential brawl coming out. That they are in spawn, so It could change.
Pinch of
but-
salt.
Yeah, on the side of Beastie Boys again, this is kind of exactly what we expected. Echo Soldier with Ball Diva.
How are we expecting? I don't actually think that these comps interact favorably for BBV here. If the side of BBA are able to just kind of play that slightly slower style that they showed they were able to play on the Nepal Sanctum map, and they just kind of play it slow, poke them down, make sure they keep control of their valuable space, their high grounds. It's going to be extremely hard for BBB to actually breach this. There's a lot of value you have coming out of these kind of poke DPS, and we've seen it in matches, at other levels this game. So let's see how this pans out.
Yeah, we're going to see Rapaz starting to move in, and BC Boys Bros, walking to point. This is where you expect them to play. They need to be on point, otherwise they're going to really struggle. But Engage coming out from Stalker and T-Nade as well, going to make it very difficult. We're starting to see kind of already the weakness from this Broadcom getting surrounded. Rapaz standing there, effectively doing nothing. He's shield low, HP low. He somehow hasn't gone down, but finally the kills are traded out. But when you look at these kind of compositions, you're looking at the favor when the Broadcom is down a few, but they are getting the picks. Lavius already building up to their high and noon, using it, doesn't really get any value. Stalker looking to start out the point, does have to worry about the McCrean Reaper. Does eventually go down. Rez does come into nude, but this is going to be a fast point from BC Boys Bros. They don't get yet. Tactical Visor does come out, and this should be the stabilization, but already almost full 3 ticks onto this point for BC Boys Bros, and you're happy with this now. You're the Broadcom, you want to force point, and you're forcing your team to come to point, but Rapaz does get anti-nade. It's surely about to go down to Visions that are very low as well. Rapaz goes down, and this should be the fight over for BC Boys Bros.
Unfortunately, it's actually a really strong engage from the side of BBB. They get onto point there and play that really well. You talk about Rapaz maybe struggling to get value in that fight, but he had what I think could be considered as kind of like valuable downtime. Where his inactivity in the fight gave his team a platform to just punish the engagement, the overextension of Amali, the kind of like over commitment of Trizzle in that type of situation. But as the fights drag on and picks trade both ways, it really favors the spam comp. It favors that comp that can just a little bit back and put in that more kind of substantial damage. Lots of ults about to come online for the side of BBB. Dubious value to some of them. I don't know where you're getting value with Death Blossom. I don't know where you're getting value with Chatter necessarily. But definitely something they can utilize to shape the side of BBA and potentially get that last stick on points.
And we're going to see Trizzle going down early, Amali, DMAC. This is the opening that you're looking for. Smiley down as well, High Noon comes out, that's the pick onto Noon. Yes, there's the mines, but they're not really in the position where you're starting out the points, so BBB can kind of just walk past and yes, the tactical visor comes up, but this is all for naught. Even if he ends up getting multiple picks with this, which you're not even expecting, the points already flipped, so it's a waste in the end. Marley probably looking at getting DMAC. He does end up, and not the stagger, so at least there's that from the side of BBA, but ults invested into the fight, the mines, the tactical visor, you're probably looking at not necessarily being a good choice.
I mean, if you look at that fight though, the way it opened up again, the same two offenders, Marley and Trizzle, going down way too early in that fight for a comp that wants to be playing extremely defensive, extremely kind of like surrounding and enveloping the enemy team and punishing them. And you've got this Diva kind of committing onto their Reinhardt. You've got this Echo kind of flying a little bit too dangerously close to their Kree, and in both situations they're getting punished. So that's something that BBB are really gonna have to, or BBA are really gonna have to address in this space.
And Pop does come out, does get neutered. There is a duplication. We all know how scary a run Doop is, but Trizzle so far not really getting the swing onto much. Rapaz does go down. Trades are still in favor of BC Boy Rose, but that is a big shadow, and that should be the clear up in time zone. Without the Reinhardt, without your BAP, this is a fight that you're going to struggle to win for Boys Bros.
Yeah, and the two DPS still alive on the side of BBB, but you're wondering how much value they're really going to be able to get in this type of situation. Trizzle is cleaning them up. You expect that Echo, that focusing beam, high amounts of damage. Not really gonna struggle in that situation.
Yeah, and Marley does get the remix, so will be kind of safe play now.
Yeah.
Not really worried about that baby Diva, but there is the two support ults coming online for BBA, so that's kind of what they're looking to leverage versus a lot of ults from BBB. But as you mentioned, where do you get the value from it? Now onto Stalker to start off this fight, probably looking for that minefield. Just slow them down a bit. Lavius and Hamza getting low. Neither do end up going down. Immortality field is picked off. That is an ideal start if you're looking at the cooldown you want to trade for the initial start, but no real ton of value from the Nano. Window does come out.
Oh, it's a back anti.
Anti as well, and without the immortality, feel very dangerous. There's the sleep onto Squishy, not getting any value out of that Death Blossom so far. Amali does get D-Max. High Noon for Abyss is able to get value, and Squishy does end up going down, but Kiri in the backline with the Visor should be able to end up clean up this fight. And yeah, there we just see it. There's ult invested from Beastie Boys Bros, but or not, the Window ends up getting nothing. The Blossom, nothing. And, now the switches start to come out.
And you can see this is a bit of a stylistic separation on the side of BBB. Riposte pushing forward very, very hard while, his backline playing quite defensively to try and counter the engagement from Stalker. Lavius, we speak about, that Death Blossom using Baby Diva, but he's putting a lot of pressure into defending his team, but there's just too much of a gap between that front and backline. They're not moving as a cohesive unit. And perhaps the stylistic switch is what they need right now.
There's ready to dab onto Kiri. Newt does go down, but trade out for Riposte. Visions does end up losing mech, so still slightly in favor of BBA. The rest does come out onto Newt. Kiri does go down. Once again, we're starting to see these back and forth fights. Squishy does go down. The dupe even coming out onto the Genji, and it's not even either at the end. He pulls out the blade, but it's Lavius that he's left chasing, and that's a tracer. You're not. Oh, never mind. Actually, gets it. So, value out of the duplicate, but at least for Beastie Boys Bros, a lot of ults pulled out.
Yeah, a lot of ults pulled out, but it still doesn't really put them in a position where they're they're back in the ult economy, really. With this Nano still online, Nano and Beat, it's still extremely even despite an extremely large commitment, and that's not what you want with 14 seconds left on the clock after having switched comps very, very late.
Another big anti coming out from Newt. Beat does come in, saves the life of most of his team, Wallace included, but Visions does end up losing mech. Riposte goes down, you're effectively down to no tank support. Chisel is low, does need to be healed up. Without the Mercy, doesn't really have that pocket. Newt going down as well, no heals left on point in for BBA, but it doesn't seem to matter, it's all but Squishy left alive, and this is going to be a hold on second point for Beastie Boys again.
Extremely valuable minefield again from Stalker, absolutely taking control at this point and putting his team in an ideal situation to win out this map. From the side of BBB though, there's just some questionable decisions happening here. They're engaging too hard for the resources they have on board. You see Visions losing mech immediately, Beat having to come out before the dive even comes out in that fight. And, even though they trade picks, there's just not those resources to keep the fight going because they're having to be used so early. A very, very good hold, you'd have to say, for BBA. You very rarely see points held at this at the second point cap on Blizzard World. It's a kind of it's a very attacker favoring map. You see lots of completions of it. So realistically, this is a fight. This is a defense I think that BBB or BBA will be extremely happy about, and an attack that BBB will perhaps be questioning, how exactly do we approach this? And we can see, immediately they haven't picked their heroes yet. They're not really sure what to come out with.
Yeah, and this is the kind of thing where maybe you're looking at Brawl would definitely be stronger on the defense here, and I think I favor it more than attack. Yes, it's not inherently your strongest, and we already started to see potential of the bunker. There's Riposte on the Sigma, so you're expecting Visions on the Rissa. I don't think we'd see. Never mind, that's a Sigma Diva.
That is interesting. Okay, it's a dive. Whew.
Yeah, Sigma Diva, bit sway, but this is the comp you're probably looking at. They're more running on the attack, but let's see if they can make it work. And Beastie Boys again sticking to exactly what worked for them. And we're looking at Lavius looking for those picks. The threat of that Widowmaker, can he bring that out?
Squishy playing a very, very defensive angle here. Kind of open angle, but he is able to get a pick out of it quite early. His tank's arriving quite late there, so I understand maybe a little bit hesitant to open up the angles in the early stage of that round. But Trizzle immediately getting a pick back on him.
Now we're starting to look at the engagement coming off from Beastie Boys Bros never really happened. They kind of just sat around waiting, and not really what you're expecting Dive to do. Dive that honor, but the real pressure. Lavius does end up going down. This Widowmaker pick, you're not getting any of it. Sleep is insane on the Trizzle. Does get that pick, but his teammates are kind of falling around him, and you're losing them one by one. And yes, that pick comes out. It's even rezzed up, so all for North in the end. Kiri goes down, but there's not really that much left in the tank for Beastie Boys Bros on this first point.
Yeah, you're looking at the attack that came out of BBB on their attack, and it took them an extremely long time to take this first point. You know, 5 minutes on the bank here, coming to the second point. That's not what you want, especially with Nano Minefield coming up immediately. You know, this their bomb and their Valkyrie here to come straight after, and a pick coming out from Lavius quite early now as well. That's going to give Trizzle the space to start building up this duplicate.
And it's just the tempo is just being set by Beasty Boys again. You're whether they're on the defense or the attack at this point. You start to see them like try this counter dive style, but you know they're not really counter dive anything. It's a wrecking ball. This isn't a Winston when you can cut off his healing and he goes down. This you know, it's self-sustaining main tech, so you need to look to put pressure on that Ana, otherwise, or that soldier, otherwise they're just going to get too much value. Steve does come out to the Kiri, he gets anti as well, but it's Trizzle that goes down first to Lavius, so Lavius finally with that space, gets that pick off, is under pressure now from Stalker. Stalker looking for this pick to try and trade it back and get a low pressure taken off of his team, but not really able to get that pick Valkyrie online from Wallace, make sure that Lavius sits alive. Riposte dangerously low, does end up committing the primal, ends up with a pick on Smiley, and that should be a slight stabilization for Beasty Boys Bros.
Not really much used from the side of BBB here, though. You know, besides the Valkyrie and the Nano, they still have the rest of their ults coming online now. This duplicates, especially, you're looking at potentially opening up the fight extremely kind of impactfully. This Visor can be an extreme threat to Squishy in the air here. Ooh, Lavius, that is a cheeky shot.
Yeah,
just getting somebody right outside his spawn there.
That's just why you don't want to give this man value. Like, any kind of space, he will find those picks.
Ooh.
Does take another cheeky angle, but gets punished for it, and maybe a bit of hubris coming out. You know, Visions gets punished as well. The pick does come out onto Stalker, so slow that engage down. But BBA, despite that, with the tactical visor surging forward, res onto Stalker means they'll be able to take the space, and now, you know, Beastie Boys Bros looking at what is probably one fight territory.
Yeah, it's realistically, it's the last available fight, and with Minefield online for Stalker here, something that's been so effective at zoning out BBB in this match so far, forcing them to take positions they don't want to take, and putting them in a position where they lose a lot of value to just sheer space control. You worry about that, especially now that the bomb from Vision is not getting any value.
Yeah, and you see, like, Kiri is just free right now. He's already got 2 picks, looking for more. Hamza under a low pressure doesn't get the nano and the sleep off onto Stalker, so we'll be able to survive a little bit longer. Amali ended up getting DMAX, so the picks not really coming out too fast for Beastie Boys again, and with the Minefield, maybe, just maybe that will be enough, and your Hamza going down is very dangerous, but losing Smiley, losing Newt as well, this should be the stabilization once again for Beastie Boys Bros. Kiri just dancing around, looking for the pick up to Fabius, and this is just chaos, and just despite all this, it's still in the favor of Beastie Boys again, and Kiri just lives. He just lives in the
What
backline.
an absolute clown fiesta of a team fight! I'm watching this and I'm just seeing this lone soldier, flanking, getting the kill on the air, flanking, going into their spawn, dueling the Widow in their spawn, and you know, them being able to pull those resources effectively and kind of get the scrappy fight going on points. They effectively traded Kiri going to their spawn and not even dying for effectively half an enemy team. That's just a complete like destruction of the structure that Beastie Boys Bros were trying to set up there. And BBA very much in control at this stage. Even if they lost that fight, there was still time for them to come back in there. There was still time for them to use more ults there, build more ults, use more ults. And on a map that we were talking about in the pregame as something that potentially favors that favored BBB quite a lot in terms of playing that spammy style, in terms of playing that slower kind of baitier style, is something that's now been flipped, and the side of BBA have really shown that they're able to take control of those matches and take control of those positions really effectively. Havana is going to be absolutely crucial for BBB here.
Yeah, and I think something that which we brought up in the early the pre-game was what kind of impact can Trizzle and Kiri bring against the likes of Lavius and Squishy, and so far they've looked like the more dominant DPS. Whether that be down to their individual skill, probably not. I think it's more down to kind of the space that's being available to them, and that's Stalker. That Stalker through and through. Looking to we saw how long he was chasing Lavius, how long he's chasing the Ana. Yes, he ends up getting stepped, but that's an important cooldown gun. He's a wrecking ball. He's not going to die from it. Yes, he's out of the fight, but he already forced that cooldown out. Now, the Ana already pent back, so attacks a lot of that space that they really need. And when Davius had that space, we saw him get the picks, but he just didn't really have it, and we started to see him look to take more aggressive angles, and was even punished for that.
Yeah, I mean, comparatively, you look at the side of Stalker here. You're looking at him playing an extremely self-sustainable style, and you're talking about a Wrecking Ball player playing that self-sustainable style, which expectably you're wanting your Wrecking Ball to be. You want your Wrecking Ball to be playing very self-sustainably, maintaining his health pool, and kind of getting into strong positions to, even if he's not getting picks, disrupt the enemy team. And I don't think we're seeing the same value coming out from Visions on that Wrecking Ball there. They're engaging very, very hard with the Winston and the Wrecking Ball there, and a lot of the time it's getting punished. And when they're playing the Winston D.Va, it's the same thing. They're engaging very, very hard, and a lot of the time, they came in on that attack, they hard dive, they took out Newt, but they lost both their tanks for it. Yeah. And that's, it's not a good trade. It's never a good trade to trade, your entire front line for the one pick. And it's just it's a difference of style. It's you're looking at this much more sustainable style from Stalker. There's much more sustainable style in general from Amali as well. Anchoring his team, forcing threats out of position, which if you're looking at BBB, they could definitely do with, given that they had a soldier in their spawn. Yeah. And that's maybe just something that you need to, if you're a BBB, look at and say, maybe we need to adjust our style, play a little bit more kind of cognizant of how the team is surrounding us and how the team is playing against us.
Yeah, it's just a big disconnect at the moment. I think is the biggest emphasis on BBB right now. You mentioned there's a hard engagement on the Winston Ball, which inherently it's not a bad thing. It's a comp that wants to engage heavily, but when you kind of the rest of your team is looking to play defensive, you don't have that support for the tank, so then they end up going down. Or on the flip side, if they don't go down, then the backline just suffers, because they're effectively, it's either a 2v6, or I say maybe 2v5 because Stalker's in the backline, or it's a 4v6 a lot of the time. So you need to kind of maybe show up the space. So we saw it looked a bit more structured when they came out of the brawl, but even then you saw Riposte walking forward. You're very aggressively looking to actively take space against a comp that doesn't really allow you to do that, while his backline wanted to play more of the bunker down style, and look to punish the Wrecking Ball. So maybe is playing that bunker down style the answer? Playing the Orisa, playing the D.Va, just punish Stalker every time he goes in, and then as a result you enable your DPS to put a lot more pressure onto Kieran Chisel. Yes, you don't have that inherent pressure from a Winston or a Ball, but just that existence of the lack of space means you have more space for your DPS.
Yeah, and I think, realistically, we haven't been seeing Lavius and Squishy playing badly. I mean, Lavius on that attack built 3 Deadeyes in the space of, about 5 minutes, and used them to quite devastating effect. And, while he was playing a comp that, the rest, their team was kiting out of his effective range. So how that actually pans out for them, if they're just able to maintain their health pools, maintain their space a little bit more effectively, will be really, really interesting. From the side of BBA in this round, we're seeing a bit of a Ball Sigma spam, a little bit of a deviation from this D.Va style that they've been playing to this point. But Amali onto a pick we know him for. This is a pick that we know he's extremely, extremely comfortable on. Can put in a lot of pressure, a lot of damage, and obviously can land extremely high value ults. Kiri and Trizzle on extremely valuable picks for them as well. From the side of DBA, we're seeing maybe this slower style. This, let's play a little bit more patient with our tanks and kind of anchor the fight for our DPS to do it more work.
Yeah, you see, the Kiri looking for the open pick is going to struggle a little bit. There's 2 shields, actually now 1. Riposte switching over to the Roadhog. Interesting choice, but Lavius getting their pick onto Kiri straight away. There is the rest on the set, but Chisel going down to the Roadhog, not something you expect to see every so often, but this is already a punish onto both DPS. Yes, your Stalker's still alive, but it doesn't matter if Stalker's alive if both your DPS are done. But trade between Lavius and Kiri, there's the classic Widow versus Hanzo, and the space is there at the moment.
Yeah.
For Beasty Warriors. They end up with the Reds because of that space. And yes, it's a Roadhog. It's not your ordinary pick, but he is someone that can punish those tanks. A lot of upfront damage, and yeah, there's the Discord of. We're seeing him actually under pressure from a Wrecking Ball, and because he's kind of separated from Visions, and as it seems like the rest of the team was, Visions just goes down. And there's the pick onto Chisel traded back. Kiri gets out with his life after the sleep, but without your Orisa, yes, you've got the Roadhog, but he doesn't really have that much of an anchor. Now he's gone down as well, so this is already, yes, they technically lose the first fight, but a minute and a half almost off the clock, and your BBA looking pretty solid.
Yeah, it's a good recontest from BBA here, and nice adaptation, switching out the Trace from the Widow for Soldier and an Echo. Heroes we've seen them play to devastating effect so far in this match, and that's allowing them to get a little bit more kind of pressure around the shield of BBB, which is exactly what they need to be doing at this stage. You can't really be allowing this team to just push straight at you and hold that space consistently. And just this immense amount of damage coming off the front here, and they're able to just stabilize the fight. Lots and lots of ults on board for BBB right now, that they're gonna have to make solid use of them, and they're gonna have to make use of them while not losing picks like they have been.
Yeah, I mean, there's a resistance squeeze, yes, you're 6v6, but another pick goes down, you don't have that resurrection. There comes that tactical visor, putting a low pressure onto Lavius. Hamza going down, Lavius as well, and the barrage comes out, does end up getting that pick onto Kiri, but that's more or less it. Yes, Rapace gets that pick onto Marley. Soldier raised up means that the Hog has to run. He doesn't have a team to back him up. Squishy switching over to the Soldier, feeling a bit under pressure. And, yes, Newt goes down, there's no resurrection available, but Hamza does as well. They do have the spawn advantage, so they might come into this fight quickly, but it looks like they want to take this fight even without their honor.
It's just, extreme ult commitment there from BBA to just kind of make sure they win that fight. Kiri using that recent patch change to tactical visor to maximum effect, hitting that Ana from halfway across the map. And now, again, still ults on board for them. Will they be able to kind of maintain the pressure?
Yeah, and Chisel saying, Kiri, you did it last fight, I've got it this fight. Not necessarily the same as Kiri, but we're going back to those days of having the same heroes on the team, which I think all of us can remember wasn't the ideal time of Overwatch, having four Winstons jump at you, but here we are, Squishy switching onto the Genji and on the Winston Diva, maybe looking to put more pressure on the DPS, but yet that slow play style hasn't really been working out, and with 30 seconds left on the clock, very few ultimates. This is a fight that I still expect your BBA to force a long fight, and they have the advantage. Rapace going down very early. The res will probably come out from Wallace, but Davius goes down. There's no res for him. Nana comes onto Rapace. He will be able to go into the backline, but there's a chance from Newt. There's no backline now. You can't pursue the Transcendence. Mines comes up to slow down. Rapace going down. Hamza down as well, and this is looking like a clean first hold coming out of BBA, and just setting a very difficult task for Beasty Boys Burst to defend. Your tactical visor should guarantee this. Even the flux as well. This is just clean coming out of Beasty Boys again, with maybe the exception of that first fight, but once they made those adaptations, it just looked too one-sided.
Yeah, the fight management from the side of BBA there is just absolutely unmatchable for the side of BBB. They were just in such immense control. Their positioning was fantastic. Even when the Nano was coming out into Rapace, he had to dive such a long way to get in there, and then the Trance on top of that meant that he was never going to be able to get out. So, you're looking at those types of engagements from BBA, and they're consistent. They make these changes quickly. They know exactly what they're trying to accomplish with the comp they're playing, and you don't actually have that same clarity of purpose when you're looking at BBA or BBB's comps. You're looking at that double barrier, it was more of a bunker, honestly, because it was the Orisa Hog. And they were playing a very slow, very kind of deliberate style, but not really able to kind of shape the fight in that way. And then, one fight remaining, they've been held on this corner for 3.5 minutes. And they switched to a hard commit dive with, again, a hero that's extremely reliant on the ultimate he brings to the table, to a set of tanks that they have to then now completely change the pace at which they're playing the game, and they're just not able to get that kind of structure in quickly enough here. Yeah, and immediately they're adopting this dive on the defense. Squishy coming out of the May, which is a very, very strange pick here. Perhaps just trying to stall out this point and offer something a little bit different, but with the dive, it's just it smells like a desperation.
Yeah, like May just, you don't really see much value in you. Lavi is looking for the pick. You have onus on him now. Yes, your first point holds up possible. We've seen Havana, we've seen fuller holds, but considering with the way the series has gone, you've got to favor Beastie Boys again. And Wallace already under a lot of pressure. There's that Zen Mercy, so again, Nilo hitting those tanks. Rapace getting discorded, doesn't it go down, but there's Hamza down already. Discord all onto him. Rapace down, Squishy down, not really have any frontline, and just looking like it's just going to be a straight cleanup. And I don't see a way that Beastie Boys bros even get back into this fight at all. I mean, Pig's going down very late. It's going to be up to Rapace to touch, but I don't even think he has that ability, and even so, probably gets in on low HP. And I mean, Smiley getting a bit furious, but they don't even get the touch on point, and a big statement coming out of Beastie Boys again, taking the series 3-0.
Yeah, extremely dominant performance from the side of BBA, especially on that last map. You know, we saw them on the Blizzard World map, and we were saying that, you know, in the lead, in the driver's seat for this match. But I wasn't expecting this Havana performance to be this dominant. Not with the players you have on the side of BBB. Just that complete clarity of playstyle from the side of BBA. They knew exactly what they were trying to accomplish. They knew exactly the style they were trying to play, and they were dominant. They were excellent at that slower spam style, which, you know, is maybe a little bit of contrast for what we were expecting. We were expecting, you know, BBB to come out with that spam style, maybe kind of play that a little bit better than BBA were able to. We're expecting a little bit more of a dive. Also, some great banter coming out from this chat right now. But yeah, it's just, you know, we're looking at this and we're thinking, you know, there's an immense amount of upheaval in this type of playstyle that BBA has brought to the table today. They've completely dominated on the spam archetype, and they've shown that they are now the team to beat. They are now the team to beat for, you know, again, that championship title, the last great South African South African League Overwatch team. You know, it's excellent.
I think you just look at it, and you know, every time we saw these kind of choices coming out of Beastie Boys Beastie Boys bros, it was always very slow. You know, you think to Blizzard World Defense, 20 seconds left for them to get there, and they haven't even selected all their heroes yet. And then on the defense of Havana, Wallace has only picked 7 seconds to go, and it just feels like they were just thrown for a loop from what Beastie Boys again were doing. You know, they played their style, Beastie Boys again, and Beastie Boys bros, they tried to play these multitude of different styles that never really fit together, and because of that, they couldn't crack the code that was Beastie Boys again. And you know, yes, there's that slight redeeming factor that, you know, they've got the lower bracket. They're not out yet. They still have the chance to come up against Beastie Boys again, and, you know, maybe have a bit more of a sense of what they need to do. But first and foremost, they have to get through Enigma. You know, they can't just, you know, straight up say we prep for Beastie Boys again, because if they go in with that bit of hubris, I mean, you know, 3-2, you know, it was a 3-2 last time between Beastie Boys bros and Enigma, so we could see a different game coming out.
Yeah. But I mean, you're back to this game now. You're looking at this, and you're looking at a situation whereby, you know, that must be booming. Now, to not just lose the winners finals, to not just lose it to your sister team, but to lose it in such a dominant way, in a way that, you know, BBA were in complete control of that Havana game, and as the series progressed, they looked more and more in control. I wouldn't have been surprised if we were to go to Volskaya, if we just saw more of the same, more of this extremely dominant playstyle that they were bringing out, and that's exactly what you needed. That's exactly what BBA needed to bring to the table. Just an immense clarity of purpose, an immense kind of understanding of the way they were going to play, an immense understanding of what they were going to switch and why they were going to switch to it, and you know, they looked a better team.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that them being the better team. This wasn't, you could say, a competitive. You know, so sometimes people like to say, yes, maybe there were better comps that Beastie Boys bros could play, but if Beastie Boys again don't execute to that level that they did, then Beastie Boys bros probably just stop. You know, we look at Lavius and Squishy just kind of rolling through basically. But that wasn't the case, and it's just such a big confidence boost. You know, you're going into a final, you know, the final, and, you know, saying, oh, we're 3-0 up, essentially, and now you're challenging Beastie Boys Bros to come up with something different, which, for a team that inherently isn't going to practice as much, will they be able to bring that out? We'll have to wait and see. And it's still 2 weeks. It's still a while that if they were to come out in this match again. But at best of 7, yes, there's a bit more room for error, I'd like to say, because you have to win 4 maps. But if we look at this being a best of 7, for example, as you mentioned, Volskaya would have most likely been dominant for BBA, so that's a 4-0 sweep.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if we're looking at a map that we're looking stylistically probably favors the way that BBA played this game over how BBB played.
I'm excited, honestly, to see the rest of the game, to see what the response is from Beastie Boys Bros. Not only in their game against Enigma, but if they win that, what do they come out against BBA? Is there a big stylistic difference? Is there some where they say, okay, this didn't work out for us, what can we do? And there's a lot there. I think there's definitely, this isn't something where you can say we have absolutely no clue. There's definitely things that they can look to change, and
yeah, for sure.
Would it go in the way of Beastie Boys Bros? I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know how next week's game against it go. I honestly think it could be a 3-0 for either team. It could be a 3-2, but that's for next week.
Before we talk about the future of the who would you say the best player tonight was?
Stalker. I've got to say without a doubt, Stalker. I don't think BBA style works as well as it did without what Stalker does. You talk about the pressure he puts on, his big ult, the picks he gets, just from being a wrecking ball and forcing out so much pressure. And Lavius effectively not doing anything for 10 to 15 seconds on that Blizzard World defense, and you've got to say he just neutralized both DPS a lot of the time. And where can you be without that kind of strong wrecking ball presence?
Yeah, I think especially the style they're playing, that extremely mobile spam style. You're looking at your wrecking ball to really be a dominant member of that team. And you look at what it gave Kiri, what it gave Trizzle, how they were able to play, what it gave Newt. How much pressure he was under compared to how much pressure Hamzo and Wallace were under. This just is not a great kind of matchup in that. They just didn't have the same space. They didn't have the same space as BBA did. Kiri and Trizzle were just dominant because they had that main tank just creating that space, forcing out the fights and pacing the fights extremely well for them. Obviously, we have to talk about the extreme impact that players like Kiri had and players like Trizzle had. Kiri putting down so much pressure on that Soldier 76. You talk about how that Havana came back when he cut off the window and came back on the Soldiers. There was just no comeback for them whatsoever in that fight.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing you always say, you can create as much space as you want as a main tank. But if your team doesn't utilize it, then, well, there's no purpose to having the main tank in the end. That's got to be a big credit to Kiri and Trizzle to using that space here. We saw Trizzle, who you'd expect to struggle against the likes of Lavis and Squishy, bringing out some big plays. I mean, you think back to the Reinhardt play, the shot that he gets. Then he dupes the Soldier 76, following in the footsteps of Kiri. And well, yes, he didn't kill 4 or 5 in that fight, but I think he ended up getting 1 pick with a visor and essentially forcing BVB into a corner where they just could not get out of.
Yeah, and I mean that's tremendous DPS play to follow up on excellent tank play. And you know what? BBA are looking like a force to be reckoned with coming into this Buffalo Cup final. On our agenda, besides this, we have a hello whoever joined me. Coming up in the next week, scheduled to be announced will be now the Beastie Boys Bros versus Enigma losers bracket final, and the week after will then be the winner of that LB final versus the Beastie Boys Agane team. In what will surely be an excellent matchup. I expect if it ends up being Beastie Boys, it'll be a match that they come in a lot more cognizant of what they're playing against. And if it's Enigma, I mean, same thing, considering they've already played earlier in this tournament.
One thing I can guarantee for next week, if the game does get casted, Blur will not be here. Because he'll be doing his best attempts to thwart Beastie Boys Bros. on that wrecking ball. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, anything.
It's going to be a good time, I'm sure. But yes, so we hope to catch you then. I've been casting alongside Lord of Terrence. Where can we find you on the internet, Lord?
You can find me on Twitter at TerranLord and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Lord of Terrans, where most likely sometime soon I'll be streaming Destiny. This Destiny grind is real.
Fair enough. I mean, completely understandable. From my side, I have been Blur. You can find me on Twitter at Blur_RSA. It's a bad handle, but I can't do anything about that until something else opens up. Our lovely producer today, so if you have any issues with camera angles, framing, anything, at him on Twitter, has been Scars. I don't know what... Yeah.
Yes.
Scars_gaming. Is that on Twitch or on Twitter?
Both.
Or on both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's Scars_gaming. So if you feel the need to flame someone after this cast, just go to his Twitter. You know, call him some insulting names. You know, that type of thing. He apparently encourages it. Wish you could hear the comms in my ear. He's the worst. For the two teams, they both share an org. They both play for Beasty Boys. It's exactly why this game was such an absolute tongue twister. I'm sure you heard exactly how much fun we were having with that. You can find both of them at the Beasty Boys ZA on Twitter. From our side, we hope you've enjoyed this match. We hope to see you for the next ones, and we wish you a good night.
Take your freedom, claim your right. Rise now, stand and say, storm the castle, kill the